It's updated. The dream broke after 8 years and was updated again. Wuyan still fainted from crying. When she woke up, she was already in the hospital. Jung Are-yu was beside the hospital bed. She learned the whole story from Yin and I. As for Wuyan messing everything up again, she had no words left. Maybe Wuyan and Boda just weren't meant to be. Even heaven didn't help Wuyan. She asked Wuyan, "How do you feel?" Wuyan stared at the ceiling. Her gaze was vacant. She didn't care about anything outside. Jung Are-yu, ignoring her attitude, continued speaking to herself. What I'm going to say next is related to Wuyan. Wuyan's finger moved slightly, but she still didn't say anything. Recently, I've been reorganizing the hospital. I found that some doctors and nurses were bribed by Wuyan. Under questioning, I found out that on the day of your wedding with Boda, Wuyan didn't have a car accident at all. He wasn't even injured. What are you saying? Wuyan suddenly turned her head, her eyes fixed intensely on Jung Are-yu. Jung Are-yu calmly explained the whole story. The doctor in charge of Wuyan recently took a leave. When they did a full body check on him, they found that his left leg wasn't injured at all. The injury on his right leg wasn't as severe as he made it seem. I checked the medical records written by his previous attending doctor and found that they were fabricated. Under interrogation, I found out that the doctor took a large bribe from Wuyan. They intentionally exaggerated his condition to gain your sympathy. Wuyan, we were all deceived by Wuyan. He faked the car accident on the day of the wedding, just to sabotage your wedding with Boda. The more Jung Are-yu spoke, the angrier she got. Wuyan squinted her eyes, her gaze calm like the storm before a downpour. Do you have proof? Jung Are-yu nodded. I've already detained the doctors and nurses he bribed. If you don't believe me, I can have them confront you right now. No need. Wuyan waved her hand. Jung Are-yu became anxious. You can't still believe him, can you? To stop you from being with Boda, Wuyan has done so many bad things. Are you still going to cover for him? And the kidnapping incident last time. Don't think that just because Nijai confessed to all the crimes, everything will be fine. I checked the hospital's surveillance and clearly saw Wuyan left with Nijai on his own. He was never drugged unconscious. The kidnapping was a conspiracy between him and Nijai from the very beginning. They wanted Boda dead. Jung Ru's eyes were already red with fury. Her expression was filled with bitter disappointment, as if she could not bear the foolishness before her. With so much evidence in hand, you are still defending Wuyan? Ryan was growing irritated by Jung Ru's loud voice. She massaged her temples. Are you? Calm down. I never said I didn't believe you. Jung Are-yu was infuriated. Then what do you mean? What exactly are you planning to do? Ryan's face was devoid of any emotion. If everything is true, I will not tolerate Wuyan any longer. But deep inside, Ryan was far from calm, recalling everything that had happened recently. If it weren't for Wuyan's interference, she and Boda would already be married. Boda wouldn't only feel hatred toward her. If Wuyan was truly behind all of this, she would never let him go. In an instant, all of her hatred found a target. She pushed herself up from the hospital bed. Her gaze was sharp and merciless. Take me to see Wuyan. Jung Are-yu hurriedly supported her. He's in the ward next door. I'll take you there. Inside the neighboring ward, Wuyan, after taking a punch from Boda, was left with multiple fractures all over his body. He was wrapped in bandages, unable to move a single muscle. Only his eyes could still move, and they were filled with venomous resentment. With that single blow from Boda, Wuyan wouldn't be able to get out of bed for the next 2 or 3 months. Thinking about how Boda had caused all of this, he wished he could tear him apart and devour him alive. Just then, he saw Ryan entering the room. His eyes lit up with joy, and he called out, "Ryan." Ryan walked up to his bed, looking down at him from above. She said nothing. Her cold, piercing gaze seemed to stab straight into his heart. Gu Wuyan's heart trembled with unease. Forcing a bitter smile, he said, "Ryan, don't look at me. I look terrible right now. I never thought Boda would hit me with such force. If Assistant Ian hadn't called an ambulance in time, I wouldn't be here to see you now." Liu Ryan's voice was icy. "Boda did this to you. Do you hate him for it?" Gu Wuyan froze, then hurriedly. He quickly forced a bitter smile. "I'm not a saint. He made me like this. Of course, I hate him, but I know you like him. For you, I can choose not to hate him." He spoke with such sincerity, as if he truly meant it. Zhang Ryu could no longer hold back. "Oh, how noble of you. Even the Leshen giant Buddha would have to step aside for you." Gu Wuyan had already cursed Zhang Ryu countless times in his heart, but with Liu Ryan present, he had to maintain his image. He lowered his eyes, looking both innocent and aggrieved. Liu Ryan stared at him, feeling pathetic for having been deceived by him for so long. Gu Wuyan was an excellent actor, but if one observed carefully, there were cracks in his performance. Right now, he clearly despised Zhang Ryu, yet he pretended to be pitiful, as if hoping she would speak up for him. "Gu Wuyan, are you still acting in front of me?" Liu Ryan's voice was cold. Gu Wuyan froze, not understanding what she meant. "Ryan, I don't understand. On the day of the wedding, there was no accident at all. You bribed the doctor. You conspired with Ni Chan to stage the kidnapping. You wanted to kill Boda." Liu Ryan's voice was chilling absolute. Gu Wuyan grew so anxious, he nearly jumped up, but his body wouldn't move. All he could do was stare at Liu Ryan, with those reddened, pitiful eyes. "Ryan, who's trying to drive a wedge between us? It's not true. None of it is real." His gaze instinctively shifted toward Zhang Ryu, filled with hostility. "There's no need to argue. We have both witnesses and evidence." Liu Ryan's eyes were cold, exuding an oppressive force. "Ryan, it's not what you think." At last, Gu Wuyan panicked. Liu Ryan remained icy and unyielding, her eyes locked onto his. A cold sweat broke out over Gu Wuyan's body. "I didn't fake the accident. I didn't conspire with Ni Chan. Ryan." His tongue twisted. His words came out dry and unconvincing. He had no way to make her believe him. Liu Ryan, having seen through everything, would never trust him again. Out of jealousy, Gu Wuyan had staged the accident, sabotaged the wedding, and conspired in a kidnapping. The truth was undeniable. Tears streamed down his face. He choked on his sobs. "Ryan, is it a crime instead of resorting to such despicable tricks to take his life? Having a lunatic like you fall for her? Ryan must have had the worst luck in 8 lifetimes." Gu Wuyan's bloodshot eyes glared at Zhang Ryu with hatred. "What do you know? Don't tarnish my love for Ryan. She never liked Boda. All these years, it was Boda who kept clinging to her relentlessly. I was only helping Ryan get rid of him, just as she truly wanted." His voice was hoarse, laced with madness and obsession. He was just lucky. Being adopted by the Liu family, having the old man arrange a marriage for him. If not for that, how could someone like him ever stand by Ryan's side? His words struck a deep wound in Liu Ryan. Fury erupted from her as she shouted, "Who gave you the right to assume my feelings? Who said I don't like Boda? And who gave you the audacity to use my name as an excuse to hurt him?" Zhang Ryu let out a cold laugh. "Ryan, I'm really not trying to tear you down here. But over the years, you spoiled Gu Wuyan far too much. Everyone saw it. If you hadn't indulged him step by step to this point, would Boda have grown so distant from you? Every time Boda and Gu Wuyan clashed, regardless of who was right or wrong, you always sided with Gu Wuyan unconditionally. In front of everyone, you trampled on Boda's pride. You crushed his dignity underfoot. No wonder Gu Wuyan's ambitions grew unchecked, to the point where he thought he could replace Boda entirely. Gu Wuyan is guilty. But the bigger mistake is yours, Liu Ryan. You are the true culprit. If you weren't so indifferent, if you hadn't allowed it, would Gu Wuyan have dared to push things this far? Liu Ryan's face turned deathly pale under Zhang Ru's scathing words, but Zhang Ru had no interest in meddling any further in their mess. She simply turned and left. Now, only Liu Ryan and Gu Wuyan remained in the ward. Gu Wuyan's eyes silently filled with tears. He gazed at Liu Ryan, his heart aching. He had done nothing wrong because he loved Liu Ryan. That was why he had done all of this. How could Liu Ryan blame him just for Boda's sake? He was unwilling to accept it. Liu Ryan thought of how he had manipulated her through gratitude, trapping her in his schemes. Her fury boiled like a volcano on the verge of eruption. With cold detachment, she spoke. Gu Wuyan, watching me and Boda turn against each other because of you, does it make you feel triumphant? Ryan, I love you so much. When you're sad, I feel the pain too. How could I ever think that way? Gu Wuyan choked on his words, trying to explain. Tears soaked into the bandages on his face. Liu Ryan showed no mercy as she delivered her final verdict. The debt from 5 years ago. Consider it repaid today. Everything I gave you, I'm taking it all back. From now on, I won't care about you anymore. If you dare show up before me again, if you ever try to harm Boda, I will make you pay for it one by one. With that, she turned and left the hospital room mercilessly. Ryan, please don't abandon me. Gu Wuyan's desperate scream tore through the room. He struggled with all his might, trying to get up and hold her back, but his body wouldn't move. All he could do was watch as she walked away without looking back. Ryan! His agonized cry echoed in the empty ward. No one responded. Not long after, the entertainment company that managed Gu Wuyan released an official statement. Due to personal career planning, Gu Wuyan will be withdrawing from the entertainment industry, returning to a private life as an ordinary citizen. As soon as the statement was posted, it skyrocketed to the top of Weibo's trending topics. Gu Wuyan's fans flooded the studio's account, furiously spamming the comments section. Our brother loves acting the most. How could he possibly quit the industry? This shady agency. Let our brother come out and explain. Is he still recovering from his leg injury? Has his condition worsened? No matter what, he should at least make a public statement himself. This announcement is way too sudden. Did he offend someone powerful? The news of Gu Wuyan's abrupt retirement caused an uproar online. No one believed that he would willingly leave the industry at the peak of his career. His fans spontaneously organized a protest, gathering outside the company's headquarters with banners, demanding to see Gu Wuyan in person. Wu Huan, the head of the entertainment agency, was overwhelmed by the crisis. Every day, he dreaded going to the office, fearing that an enraged fan might try to assassinate him. She went to the executive office to request a meeting with Liu Ryan. Can we delay Gu Wuyan's retirement from the industry for a while? The fans are causing too much chaos, Wu Huan said bitterly. Liu Ryan's gaze was sharp and assessing. I appointed you as the executive director because I believed in your ability to handle problems. And now you're coming to ask me? Wu Huan's face was filled with distress, but the fans won't accept it. Then don't bother explaining it to them. Gu Wuyan's retirement is set in stone. I'm giving you 3 days. If you can't handle it, then someone else will take your place. I promise I'll get it done. Wu Huan vowed anxiously, afraid that Liu Ryan might strip her of her position on the spot. Half an hour later, Wu Huan left the office drenched in cold sweat. Liu Ryan's presence was overwhelming. She couldn't understand it. Wasn't Gu Wuyan rumored to have had an affair with Liu Ryan? Why was Liu Ryan the one crushing him? And clearly, Gu Wuyan had offended someone. But for Liu Ryan to be this ruthless? Wu Huan didn't dare dig deeper into the matter. All she could do was exhaust every possible effort to deal with the relentless fans protesting outside the company. At a bar, Zhang Ru handed Boda a glass of Bloody Mary. Have a drink. He pushed it aside. No need. I don't drink. Ever since I ruined my stomach drinking for Liu Ryan, I've avoided alcohol as much as possible. Jang Ryu didn't insist. She simply lifted her own glass and took a sip. You heard about Gu Wuyan quitting the industry, right? Boda nodded. I know. It's been making waves lately. Even though I don't follow entertainment news. Jang Ryu studied Boda for a moment. Liu Ryan shut Gu Wuyan down. Because of you. Boda froze, feeling an unexpected mix of emotions. He didn't know how to respond. Because of me? Boda raised an eyebrow. A faint smirk tugged at his lips. He found it a little ridiculous. Jang Ryu, noticing his skepticism, hurriedly explained. Liu Ryan found out that on the wedding day, Gu Wuyan's leg injury was fake. He just wanted to ruin your wedding with Liu Ryan and the kidnapping. He was deeply involved in that too. When Liu Ryan learned the truth, she was furious. In order to avenge you, she personally ordered his downfall. Dr. Zhang, there's no need to speak on Liu Ryan's behalf. Revenge for me? It's nothing more than her realizing she was deceived and lashing out in humiliation. It has nothing to do with me. Boda sneered coldly. He had long stopped believing in grand, noble words. Jang Ryu looked at him with curiosity. Boda, you've really changed. It's not that I've changed. It's just that I'm not so easy to fool anymore. I won't be stupid enough to hand over my heart just because of a few words. The biggest lesson I learned from Liu Ryan and Gu Wuyan is that a person should be selfish for their own sake. Never trust too easily again. Jang Ryu sighed. I called you here today because I wanted to help Liu Ryan make amends. Boda remained silent. Jang Ryu continued. Ever since she found out the truth, she's been in a terrible state. She really wants to see you, but after what happened with Gu Wuyan, after hurting you, she feels too ashamed to face you. She's been burying herself in work these past few weeks, practically eating and sleeping in the office. Boda, as Liu Ryan's best friend, I can say with certainty, she truly loves you. She just didn't know how to love. Now she understands her mistake. And she has already punished Gu Wuyan for it. Can't you give her one more chance? Boda calmly stared at Jang Ryu. Dr. Zhang, I know you're Liu Ryan's friend. It's only natural that you'd want to defend her. But who was there to stand up for me? I almost lost my life because of them. If I had really drowned when I jumped into the sea that day, would you still be here, pleading for Liu Ryan on her behalf? Jang Ryu let out an awkward laugh. Don't talk about death. It's unlucky. Boda cut her off coldly. My stance on this relationship was already made clear on the day the wedding was cancelled. Liu Ryan and I are like two separate bridges. Our paths no longer cross. We are strangers now. We won't interfere in each other's lives anymore. No matter how many times you ask, my answer will never change. Boda stood up. He grabbed his phone from the table and said, I have things to do. I'm leaving. If there's nothing important, don't contact me again. With that, Boda, right in front of her, blocked her phone number and social media accounts. Jang Ryu's expression darkened. Why did Boda feel so thorny now, as if he were covered in spikes? He was much harder to deal with than before. She had already done everything she could for Liu Ryan. If Boda refused to agree, then there was nothing more she could do. From now on, she would stay out of their affairs. Her break came to an end. Boda returned to work under Wang Qing. Wang Qing was a great employer, generous with money, but being her bodyguard was a job that could cost him his life. In just half a month, Boda had already experienced 3 assassination attempts while protecting her. One day, he privately asked Qinbo, where does a young woman like Wang Qing get so many enemies? Qinbo gave him a knowing look. It's because the Wang family has long walked the line between the light and the dark. In the capital, they've offended to many people. Now that the Wang family has returned, those people can't sit still anymore. They want to wipe out the Wang family for good. Boda was speechless after hearing this. It seemed that the Wang family's urgent hiring of bodyguards wasn't for a simple security job. It was a deadly mission. By now, it was too late for regrets. He had already signed a 3-year contract with the Wang family. More importantly, to avoid Liu Ryan's endless pursuit, only the Wang family could provide him with the protection he needed, just in case. He purchased several life insurance policies for himself. The beneficiary was an orphanage. If something happened to him, at least his death wouldn't be meaningless. That day, after returning to the old estate, Wang Qing called him into the study. "Tomorrow, you're going to the airport to pick someone up for me." She sat behind her desk, not even lifting her head, her pen moving swiftly across the documents. The Wang family had recently established partnerships with several powerful families. Their projects were finally on track. On top of that, they were reclaiming the influence they had lost in the capital over the years. Wang Qing had barely slept for days. Tomorrow was supposed to be her scheduled day off. She planned to catch up on sleep. Something as trivial as picking someone up could be left to Boda. Boda responded respectfully. "Miss, who am I picking up?" "Wang Wuyan, my younger sister," Wang Qing answered. Boda raised an eyebrow in surprise. He had always thought Wang Qing was an only child. He never expected her to have a younger sister. "Do you have a photo of her? It would make it easier to find her at the airport." Wang Qing chuckled. "No photo, but finding her should be easy. The most ostentatious person in the entire airport, that'll be her." Boda remained silent. It seemed Wang Qing didn't have the best relationship with her sister. She added, "Her flight arrives at 10 in the morning tomorrow. Make her wait a bit. Go pick her up 2 hours late." Leaving the study, Boda was filled with curiosity. The next morning at 9 o'clock, Boda got into his car and drove off. Although Wang Qing had told him to arrive 2 hours late, he wouldn't actually be that tardy. He arrived at the international airport exactly at 10, taking out a sign with Wang when written on it. He stood at the arrival gate. At this hour, the airport was crowded with travelers. People bustled about in all directions. Luggage carts rolled across the floor, their wheels clicking against the tiles. He waited for half an hour. Still, he saw no sign of the so-called most ostentatious person. Boda hesitated. Should he call Wang Qing and ask? But then he remembered she was probably still asleep. He dismissed the idea. Wang Qing had been working hard recently. He didn't want to bother her over something so trivial. Slipping his phone back into his pocket, suddenly, a sharp scream rang out from behind him. He turned around instantly. A luggage cart was tipping over, suitcases tumbling from the top. The crowd scattered in panic, except for one girl frozen in place. Boda frowned. In a flash, he lunged forward. Just as the suitcase was about to crash down on her, he swung his arm. Pa! His elbow struck the falling suitcase, sending it flying several meters across the floor. "Wow, so strong!" A voice in the crowd gasped in admiration. The airport staff who had been pushing the cart turned pale, rushing over in a panic. He bowed deeply. "I'm so sorry. There was too much luggage today. I thought I could save some effort by piling it all on one cart. I didn't expect this to happen. I sincerely apologize." Boda responded in a steady tone. "At least no one got hurt. Be more careful next time. Don't overload a single cart. There are too many people here. It's dangerous." Yes, I'll remember that." The staff's attitude was sincere. And with that, the incident was over. After helping to rearrange the fallen luggage, Boda suddenly realized. He searched around but couldn't find it. A slender hand reached out, holding a piece of paper. "Hey, handsome, are you looking for this?" Boda took the paper. He looked up and thanked her. "Yes, it's mine. Thank you. It's me who should be thanking you. If it weren't for your help, I might have been hurt just now." The woman's voice was soft, low and gentle beside Boda's ear. He took a good look at her. It was the same girl who had almost been hit by the suitcase. She had a classic oval-shaped face, a straight nose, fair skin, and a pair of slightly upturned phoenix eyes. When she smiled, it was dazzling, radiating the elegance of a well-bred lady. But what caught Boda's attention was her outfit. Although autumn had already arrived in the capital, she was wearing a silver high-slit kippah. Her long legs were wrapped in black silk stockings, and her feet were adorned with silver high heels encrusted with diamonds. Even though the airport was warmer than the outside, her outfit was still far too revealing for the season. The woman tapped her long, slender finger on the name written on the paper. "You're looking for Wuyan? Could it be that you're..." Boda had a strange thought. Could it really be this much of a coincidence? The woman smiled and nodded. "Yes, I'm Wuyan, Wang Qing's younger sister." When she mentioned Wang Qing, a flicker of coldness flashed in her eyes. But in an instant, her bright, smiling expression returned. "So my dear sister sent you to pick me up. The eldest miss had something to do today, so she sent me instead." Boda gave a simple introduction. "My name is Boda. I'm the eldest miss's bodyguard." Even as he spoke, he couldn't help but recall Wang Qing's words from last night. Although Wang Wen's outfit was extravagant, it didn't seem excessive enough to earn the title of most ostentatious. He wondered what kind of history these two sisters shared. "Bodyguard?" Wang Wen raised an eyebrow in curiosity. "You're so handsome. I thought you were my sister's boyfriend." Her words startled Boda. "Second miss, you misunderstand. I'm not the eldest miss's boyfriend. I'm just an employee." "Got it. Relax, will you?" Seeing how tense he was, Wang Wen's smile grew even more charming. "Second miss, where is your luggage?" "My luggage is with my boyfriend. He went to handle the paperwork. He'll be here soon," she replied casually. Boda nodded, feeling slightly relieved. Not even 10 minutes later, a tall man in a brown trench coat approached. His legs were long, his stature imposing, and his presence carried a chilling aura. His shoulder-length hair was simply tied back in a low ponytail. He wore gold-rimmed glasses, giving off the aura of an artist. As he walked closer, Boda felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Then, as he looked into the man's eyes, that feeling only grew stronger. "Oh yeah." Wang Wen affectionately linked her arm through the man's, introducing him. "This is my boyfriend. And yeah." Then she turned to introduce Boda. Yeah. He's the bodyguard my sister sent to pick us up." Boda. Wang Ji's pupils contracted slightly, his gaze landing on Boda. Boda stared back at him, noticing a small black mole in the white of his right eye. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Luo Mingji?" Wang Wen's eyes widened in surprise. "Wait, how do you know Aji's childhood name was Luo Mingji?" Boda was stunned, then overjoyed. "Mingji, it's really you." Yeah was just as shocked. "Boda, I never thought I'd run into you here. When I first saw you, you looked familiar. But I figured there was no way it could be you, so I didn't dare believe it." Boda sighed in amazement. "It's been what, over 10 years? Wang Wen was utterly confused. Yeah, what's going on?" "You and the bodyguard knew each other before?" Yeah smiled as he explained. Boda and I grew up in the same orphanage." Boda and Luo Mingji had both spent their childhoods in an orphanage. Boda, with his natural strength and poor control over it, often broke things and was disliked by the other children. Meanwhile, Luo Mingji, because of the mole in his eye, was treated as an outcast and called a freak. They were of similar age, both shunned by others, and eventually became close friends. When they were 8 years old, Boda was adopted by the Liu family. That same day, Luo Mingji's relatives found him and took him abroad. He changed his name to Ya. From then on, the two lost contact. This unexpected airport reunion was their first meeting since they had grown up. Boda's heart was filled with happiness. He had always wondered about his childhood friend. Seeing that he was doing well, Boda felt relieved. He took the suitcase from Ji's hand, smiling. There are too many people here. Let's talk in the car. Alright, Yang nodded. Boda led the way, pulling the suitcase behind him. Yang and Wang Wen followed. As they walked, Wang Wen recounted how she had almost been hit by the falling luggage, and how Boda had saved her. You have no idea. Those suitcases were really heavy, but he just punched them away like it was nothing. His strength is insane, like a superhero. She didn't notice that Yang's expression was growing darker. She kept talking to herself. I remember you once said, the men in your family are born with extraordinary strength. Could it be that Boda is your long-lost brother? She said it jokingly, but Yang's face turned grim, his voice sharp. Enough! Wang Wen was startled by his sudden outburst. When she finally processed his reaction, she gave him a half-smiling, half-mocking look. Are you trying to shut me up? Yang's expression shifted for a brief moment, but he quickly regained his usual gentle smile. Wan, my family is unique. It's better not to discuss strength and physical abilities in public. If the wrong people overhear, it could cause trouble. Wang Wen snorted coldly, but she let it go begrudgingly. They left the airport and got into the car, heading toward the Wang family estate. Inside the car, Boda and Yang caught up on the years they had missed. From their conversation, Boda learned that, after reconnecting with his biological family, Luo Mingji had changed his name to Yang. His family treated him fairly well. Since he had older siblings ahead of him, he was spared from the heavy burdens of the family legacy. He had the freedom to pursue his passions. He loved painting. Now, he was a well-known international artist. His paintings could easily sell for millions. This time, he had returned to the country to spend the new year with his family elders. Despite not seeing each other for over a decade, their conversation flowed effortlessly. An hour later, they arrived at the Wang estate. Bo came out to greet them. With a respectful tone, he said, "Second miss." The moment Wang Wen saw him, she grinned cheerfully. "Bo, how are you? Where's my sister?" Bo chuckled. The eldest miss is still resting. His eyes then shifted to the unfamiliar face beside Wang Wen. And this gentleman is? Wang Wen affectionately leaned against Yang's shoulder. "This is my boyfriend, Yang. I brought him back to introduce him to my sister as a matter of courtesy." Yang met Bo's gaze opally. "A pleasure to meet you, Bo. I've brought some gifts." Just a small token of respect. He handed over a suitcase. Bo smiled and gestured for the servants to take it. But in his mind, he carefully noted the name. Yang. Could it be related to that family? If that were the case, and he got involved with the second miss, then the eldest miss would be in serious danger. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Bo invited everyone inside. He turned to Boda and said, "ZG, lunch is almost ready. Go wake the eldest miss up for her meal." Boda froze for a moment. He was about to say that, as a man, it probably wasn't appropriate. But before he could, Bo had already hurried into the living room to entertain Wang Wen and Yang. Boda thought about calling a maid upstairs instead. But everyone seemed too busy. Not a single one was available. With no other choice, he went upstairs himself, standing in front of Wang Qing's door. He knocked gently. "Eldest miss, are you awake?" After waiting for a moment, there was no response. He knocked again. "Lunch is ready. It's time to eat." Still, no sound came from inside. Could something have happened? Thinking back to the previous assassination attempts, his chest tightened. What if their enemies had escalated their methods this time? What if they had secretly infiltrated the Wang estate? Boda's eyes darkened with caution. He slowly pressed down on the doorknob. Just as he was about to push the door open, it swung open from the inside. A wave of damp, warm steam rushed toward him. His body stiffened. "What is it?" Wang Qing asked impatiently, drying her wet hair with a towel. Droplets of water trickled down her neck, disappearing beneath the loose folds of her white bathrobe. Her cheeks were flushed, her skin as smooth as jade. Wang Qing was, without a doubt, the most stunning woman Boda had ever seen without makeup. "Hey, wake up!" Wang Qing waved a hand in front of his face. "I know I was born naturally beautiful, but you don't have to stare like that." Boda's face turned red, but years of professional training allowed him to recover quickly. With a serious expression, he said, "I'll dismiss. The guests have arrived. Jinbo is entertaining them in the living room. Lunch is also ready." Wang Qing listened, her expression unreadable. Without saying a word, she turned and walked back into her room. Boda hesitated. Should he stay or head downstairs? Inside the room, Wang Qing sat down in a comfortable position. Noticing that Boda was still standing there motionlessly, she called out, "What are you standing there for? Come in and help me dry my hair." Boda thought he had misheard. Wang Qing's patience was running thin. "Hurry up." He didn't mishear it. 100,000 yuan. Boda swiftly stepped into the room. He picked up the hairdryer. He wasn't obsessed with money, but he wasn't about to pass up an opportunity like this. Blowing her hair for a few minutes, and the orphanage kids would have their New Year's gift money. A great deal. His heart was practically cheering. Standing behind the sofa, he carefully helped Wang Qing dry her hair. Her hair was thick, soft and silky like fine satin. Boda was extra cautious, afraid of breaking a single strand and getting a deduction. Wang Qing sat with her eyes closed. She hadn't said a word. The only sound in the room was the hum of the hairdryer. Half an hour later, Boda put the hairdryer away. "All dismissed, all done." Wang Qing slowly opened her eyes. A sharp glint flickered in them, faintly excited. Boda had seen this look before, the same gaze she had when dealing with business rivals. A fierce, predatory glint, like a lion ready to strike. Who was she preparing to deal with now? Before he could figure it out, she had already given an order. "Go on, I'll get changed and head downstairs." "Yes." Boda exited the room. In the grand hall, the kitchen staff had already set the dishes on the dining table. Wang Qing arrived fashionably late. Wang Wen saw her and greeted her with a delicate smile. "Big sis, why did you sleep in so late? Were you exhausted last night?" She deliberately emphasized the word exhausted. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, she gasped, "Oh no, but my sister doesn't even have a boyfriend. So she couldn't possibly be tired, right? Must have just overslept." Boda's impression of Wang Wen immediately plummeted. Her tone, her expression, they reminded him of Wuyan. That same passive-aggressive sweetness, that same subtle, calculated malice. Wuyan's manipulative words had caused him plenty of trouble before. Ever since, he had kept his distance from people like that. Wang Qing, however, merely raised an eyebrow. She wasn't the least bit angry. Her gaze instead shifted to Aying. "And this is?" Wang Wen, with an affectionate smile, clung to Aying's arm. "This is my boyfriend, Aying." Her voice was sickly sweet. Her eyes glinted with a challenge. As if daring Wang Qing to react, Aying maintained his polite, cultured smile. "A pleasure to meet you, Miss Wang. I look forward to your guidance." Wang Qing smiled just as sweetly. Of course. But I'd suggest you get a full medical checkup first."